Hi, this is Ms. Pellegrin, and today we're going to be working on Module 4, Lesson 3, Comparing Quantities with Percent. Our student outcomes for today: students use context of a word problem to determine which of the two quantities represents the whole. Students understand that the whole is 100%. So our whole is 100%. And think of one quantity as a percent of another. So we're going to be using this formula. Part is equal to percent times whole to problem solve when given two terms out of the three from a quantity, whole, and percent. So we're given two of them and we have to solve for the unknown. When comparing two quantities, students compute percent more or percent less using algebraic, numeric, and visual models. So our opening exercise today, we had these two 10 by 10s. We wanted to know what the shaded region was. And so we said this is a 10 by 10, therefore all of this is 100. And then we counted here, we had 10, 20, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we said this was representing 125%. That was the amount that was shaded. In the model above, 25% represents a quantity of 10 students. So this 25% that we have right here was representing 10 students. And we wanted to know how much is the entire shaded region. So I just went ahead and blocked it off as 25 for each. We know that 100 is broken up into 4. So we had 10 in each, so we have a total of 50 students here. Okay, let's look at example number 1. And so we're going to split our screen right here. So we're going to do two different methods. We're going to continue doing the proportions that we had talked about before. And then we're also going to be looking at the equation that we were given in our student outcomes. So the member of a club are making friendship bracelets to raise money. Anna and Emily made 54% of the bracelets over the weekend. They need to produce 300 bracelets by the end of the weekend. What percent of the bracelets were they able to produce over the weekend? And so the very first thing that we want to do there is we want to label our different parts. We want to know what is our percent, what is our part, what is our whole, because if we don't know the parts, we can't put them in properly and then solve it. So we have P, our part is 54, our percent, we don't know, that is what we're looking for. We're going to label that as X, and then the whole was going to be 300. Okay, and so over on the left side, we said we're going to be working with the proportion, and in our proportion, we have the part over the whole is equal to the percent over 100. And so our part, we're just going to plug in. We said is 54 over the whole, we said is 300. Is equal to the percent, which is unknown, so we're going to do an X, over 100. We cross multiply and we get 300X. I always like to keep my X on the left side if I can. And then 54 times 100 gives me 5,400. And I've got multiplication here, so I know I need to do division in order to undo that, to get X by itself. So 300 divided by 300 is 1. X is equal to 5,400 divided by 300 is 18. I was looking for in percent, so this is going to be 18%. Okay, so let's look at what doing it with the formula looks like. So first of all, our formula, we're going to always start with that, is P is equal to the percent times the whole. Our not percent, yeah, percent times the whole. Part is equal to percent times whole, sorry. So our part is 54 is equal to the percent, which is what we didn't know, so we're going to do it as X, and then the whole, which was 300, and we're multiplying those things. And that doesn't really look right to have the number on the outside or behind the variable. So I'm just going to rewrite that Remember, I can reorder multiplication. That's perfectly fine. And so we have 300x. So we're dividing both sides by 300. And so I'm going to take my calculator and I'm going to do 54 divided by 300, which gives me 0.18. So 0.18 is equal to x. Again, let's remember that our percent is what we're looking for. And if you notice, in one we have 18% and the other one we have 0.18. But we need to remember, anytime you have a decimal or you're looking for a percent, you always got to move that decimal 2 places to the right. So we're going to move it 1, 2, and so that's where we get that actual 18% from. On the left side, when we were doing percent over 100, anytime we're dealing with a percent, we have to change it in some way. So on the left side, we had it over 100. We made it as a fraction. Any percent is always over 100. But on the right side, when we were using our percent, it was actually as a decimal. And so when we have a decimal, we have to move that decimal 2 places to the right to actually make it a percent. So 18% of the bracelets. Okay, so let's move on. Let's go to B. Anna produced 32 of the 54 bracelets produced by Emily and Anna over the weekend. Write the number of bracelets that Emily produced as a percent of those that Anna produced. Okay, so again, let's split that screen, or split our paper in half. And remember, I need to figure out, what are these numbers? Are they the part? Are they the percent? Are they the whole? So we have Anna. We know that Anna produced 32. And so 32 of the 54 that they both produced. So together they did 54. Anna did 32 of them. And so therefore, Emily, we do 54. Oh, won't let me right there. Okay, so we do 54 minus the 32, and then that gives us 22. So there's 22 left that Emily would have produced. And we want to know how many that Emily produced as a percent of those that Anna. So we have Emily of Anna. And so that word of is telling me that Anna is actually going to be our whole, Emily is going to be our part, and then our percent is our part that we do not know. So I like to write it right here. P is equal to, the part is Emily, and Emily is 22. The percent is unknown, and then finally our whole was Anna, and Anna was 32. Okay, I find what I have in red there easier to use than what I have on the left, which is a little bit more of like scratch work. So we have our part, 22, over our whole, 32, is equal to x over 100. We cross multiply, 32x is equal to 2200, and we're going to divide both sides by 32. And we get x is equal to 68.75, and it's a percent that we were looking for, so 68.75%. And then we're going to do it on the other side. Start with our equation. P is equal to percent times the whole. So P is our part. There are 22 in our part. Is equal to, the percent is unknown, and W is our whole, so there's 32. I'm going to rewrite this just to flip it around a little bit and divide both by 32. 22 divided by 32, 22 divided by 32 gives me 0.6875. 0.68, whoops. 7, getting ahead of myself there, 5 is equal to x. It doesn't look like the left side though because it was as a decimal, so we need to take that decimal and move it 2 places to the right. So 68.75%. So that is, in a complete sentence, that Emily produced 68.75% of the number of bracelets Anna produced. Okay, and so we can see that that makes sense. Emily produced less than Anna, so her percentage should be less than 100%. Go on to our next one. Write the number of bracelets that Anna produced as a percent of those that Emily produced. So we still have our same numbers there, but this time it says Anna of Emily. So Anna's going to be our part this time, and Emily is going to be our whole, which we can see is that means this is going to be over 100% because, let's look back up here so I don't rewrite it. Our part, actually I do need to rewrite that, sorry. Our part is going to be Anna, and Anna was 32, and our whole percent, we don't know. Still is what we're looking for. Our whole, though, is 22. So our part is more than our whole. So therefore, we are going to get an answer that is going to be over 100%. Okay, so we've got 32 over 22 is equal to x over 100. Cross multiply and divide. So x is equal to 145%. Start with our equation. P is equal to percent whole. Our part was 32 is equal to, the percent is unknown. I'm just going to go ahead and write it in the correct order. 22 is our whole. X is what we do not know. Divide both sides by 22. So we've got 32 divided by 22, 32 divided by 22, which gives me 1.45 repeating on forever. So we have 1.45 repeating on forever is equal to x. So you notice there's already a decimal. However, our numbers, again, they don't match. One is 145, the other is 1.45. So even when we do end up with a decimal in our answer, we still have to move that decimal 2 places to the right to actually make it into a percent. So we still have 145% is our answer. And it just depends on what they ask you to round to. I'm going to round to the nearest whole number on this one. Okay, so 145%. So go ahead and pause the video and see if you can do the exercises, and then go to the following video, part 2, in order to check out the answers.